High days are awesome. I'm Carl Azuz, and you're 10 minutes away from being up to speed on world events. A University of Virginia student, an accounting teacher, a Pyongyang University employee, and a businessman. They have a couple things in common. They're all American citizens, and they're all currently imprisoned in North Korea. A Canadian pastor has also been detained in the country. North Korea calls these people criminals and says they've received due process, fair legal treatment under North Korean law. But a former U.S. ambassador to China says North Korea is holding the Americans to use them as bargaining chips with the U.S. The communist country says 2 of the detained Americans committed hostile acts against North Korea. We don't know exactly what that means. The State Department says the Asian country's legal system passes harsh sentences for actions that wouldn't be considered crimes in the U.S. Things like taking unauthorized pictures, shopping at stores where foreigners aren't allowed, or for religious activities.
North Korean authorities have a pattern of detaining American citizens when they're about to leave the country from the airport in Pyongyang. From that moment, their situation becomes very precarious. If the detainee is lucky, then perhaps they'll be released within a matter of months. In the past, Americans have been accused of espionage and plotting hostile acts against North Korea. Since Washington and Pyongyang do not have formal diplomatic relations, the Swedish embassy negotiates on behalf of the prisoners. The outside world doesn't normally see the detainees until they're forced to make televised confessions or highly controlled appearances with visiting journalists like CNN. North Korea typically punishes Americans with years of hard labor. University student Otto Warmbier received a 15-year sentence for pulling a political banner off the wall of his tourist hotel. Former prisoners describe spending hours each day digging holes and shoveling coal. Several prisoners have been released with the help of visits from American dignitaries. The U.S. State Department warns U.S. citizens not to travel to North Korea.
North Korea is not on the itinerary for President Donald Trump's first international trip as U.S. leader, but the Middle East and Europe are. The president's scheduled to leave today to visit Saudi Arabia, Israel, Vatican City, Belgium, and Italy in that order. The trip will last 8 days, and though he's facing controversies back home, President Trump will be working with other leaders in the days ahead to advance his foreign policy goals. Speeches, visits to holy sites, and meals with other heads of state are all on the schedule. 10-second trivia. Which of these scholarship awards is the oldest? Truman Scholarship, Marshall Scholarship, Fulbright Scholarship, or Rhodes Scholarship? Dating back to 1904, when its first recipients entered the United Kingdom's Oxford University, the Rhodes Scholarship is the oldest. Back in 2008, Florida State safety Myron Rolle had a choice to make that was really a win-win. Accept a prestigious Rhodes Scholarship or enter the National Football League right out of college. He graduates medical school tomorrow, and looking back, Rolle says accepting the scholarship absolutely hurt his NFL prospects. He was drafted, but he never played a regular season game. But he also says his calling was neurosurgery.
You're going to be starting pretty soon, a couple months. What are your biggest concerns?
I don't want to be an outsider, an outcast. I know coming in with the football credentials and maybe some hype, so to speak, could make it tough to fit into a very team-centered place. But I just want to be one of the guys or girls. I just want to be a part of the team.
Everyone knows you, so there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on you. Do you feel like you're going to have to work harder?
I think I will have to work harder. I think I will have to study and be incredibly prepared. But I think the good thing that I've been able to do during my life when these pressure moments do come is to ask for help.
Ask for help. It isn't something Dr. Myron Rolle has had to do very often. In a couple of weeks, Rolle will start the next chapter of his life. Brain surgeon.
Mine has matched into neurosurgery at Harvard.
Professional football player and Rhodes Scholar, having already been ticked off.
I think the proudest moment was the day that I won the Rhodes Scholarship. We were playing at University of Maryland up in College Park, and I had my interview in Alabama, and it was the same day. I went to Birmingham, interviewed, 2-hour interview, sat around and waited for another hour or two. The judges came out and said that I won a scholarship.
That's incredible.
I got a quick interview and got on a plane from Alabama to Maryland. Got to the game around the second quarter. Got my pads on. My parents were there. Got a standing ovation. We won big. My teammates doused me with water. It was a big day.
Which one gets you more excited? I mean, when you had a big game day, you're putting on your gear and all that sort of stuff, or when you're scrubbing up for a big operation, your hands are at the sink?
Oh, that's tough. Well, right now, certainly scrubbing in. I mean, if you asked me that when I was 21, definitely playing football for sure. It's exciting. I mean, both are, I felt the same rush. I felt the same excitement. I felt the same sort of intensity in both atmospheres. You have to perform. You have to prepare. You have to strategize. You have to communicate. You know, a lot of the same elements go into it. I pray, I listen to music, I try to get myself ready to go, and it's exciting. It's super thrilling.
So you're saying because I do my prep before surgery, it's kind of like I'm in the NFL.
Kind of, yeah. All you need is some smoke to come, you know, maybe some cheerleaders. You'll be good.
The RF jamming system is sending a radio frequency signal to the drone that blocks the communication channels, and that ray allows us to force the drone to land or to return to its base. Our system is very quick to respond. From detect, track to disruption takes just 15 seconds. The most obvious threat is the risk of collision by a drone with an aircraft, and so I think it is generally understood that it's a question of just when rather than if that event will happen.
It's believed that the lunchbox, as we know it, was born in the 1800s when workers started carrying heavy metal pails to protect their meals.
Have y'all ever seen a lunchbox museum before?
Yeah, it's my first time. At this lunchbox museum in Columbus, Georgia, visitors can get their hands on history, picking up pails that safeguarded sandwiches from the 1930s to the 1980s. The curator describes them as time capsules. And while some stores might have shelved them long ago, saying they're too stale to sell, their metal has certainly been tested. Their place in history is all boxed up. They've proven their usefulness, case closed. Their critics are just going to have to put a lid on it. I'm Carl Azuz. Have a fresh weekend.